Hi, everyone, and welcome to the One Podcast. I have a lot of feelings going on in my body today about this guest, and I just can't wait to have this conversation with her. For anyone who hears this or sees this, we're going to be talking specifically about a book that she wrote, but I have a feeling this might go in a number of different directions. So I'm very excited for you to hear from Jaclyn Shaw today. She is an author, but she's also a speaker, a teacher, a spiritual mentor. She's been in this coaching industry for almost a decade or longer. And she recently released one of the best books I've ever read. I actually audiobooked it. It was so powerful. So she just released a book called Spiritual Smackdown: From Victim to Goddess. And I'm a person who loves to hold the book, to write in it with pencils, to go back through. But I ordered the audiobook because I was going to be on this long drive and I wanted nothing else but to really hear it. And when your voice started, and before we even got into the book, when you started talking about why you wrote it, the backlash, the judgment that could potentially happen, the thoughts that people might have about it, I could just feel everything in my body. It woke up to pay attention. It knew this was important. For those of you who don't know, it does have to do with infidelity. I remember thinking, I wonder how all of me is going to respond. And that's why I wanted to take a moment and truly tell you, you have to order this book and read this book if you've ever had any form of infidelity. If even in a friendship, if you felt betrayed, if you felt like someone has hurt you, if you felt like someone did something to you, there's so many elements of this book that are going to change the way you see everything in such a loving, accepting, one of the purest passion paths to unconditional love. It's the most beautiful book. I'm so in love with it, and I could go on and on, but I am so excited for you guys to meet Jaclyn Shaw.
Oh my gosh, what a welcome into this space. And just hearing you share this has been the most incredible thing. I mean, the book's been out for 3 weeks, and I wake up every day to messages from women. And as you said, my story, my journey, it's a spiritual memoir. And it feels interesting because even when I first had it with the first editor. She's like, I don't even know if we can call this a memoir because it's a memoir, but it's also such spiritual wisdom and teaching. And it was really this dance. But my part of the story, the part that I take people through in an 8 month journey in my life is when my husband had an affair when I was pregnant. But one of the things that I've loved the most about sharing this book with people is whether their story is similar to mine or not, they're finding like deep resonance in their own journey. I mean, there's been women who have had similar experiences to me who said, yes, my partner had an affair or in a previous relationship, or my father did, or my mother did, or I was actually the other woman in this story, or I was the one who had the affair. I've been hearing messages from women around infidelity, but then through so many other stories as well. And then, even as I said women there, I mean, I lead women in my mentorship. When you said almost a decade in this industry, I was like, oh my gosh, I have been a coach mentor for almost a decade. That is true, but I had never even thought of that before. And because I focused so much on women, when I wrote the book, I felt like I was writing it for women. But the amount of men that have reached out to me from this book too, like I'm not taking any of it for granted. I really feel in something that you had said to me as we got started, having these conversations, bringing this work forward. I mean, this is my sacred offering to the world. This is my movement. And it feels so collective in people's willingness to come forward and to share and to write reviews for it and to say, oh, I've bought this book for my friend and I've recommended it and I've shared it. And you just so offering to have me on here and be the conduit for whoever's hands right now. For me, it's the hands, the ears. Like I want to get it in more people's hands, more people's ears because of people's response to it, because of the transformation that's literally happening in real time right now for people.
It is it is so beautifully written. Okay, so start off with what made you want to write the book?
I mean, honestly, 9 years ago, right after my daughter was born, I was sitting with her in the park, and this book is delivered in four parts, and so I'm not really giving anything away, but in the third part, it's called The Second Smackdown. And I was sitting in the park with my daughter, who was 3 weeks old, and felt this voice from within me that said, the first Smackdown was for you, the second is for them. And I knew in that moment what that meant was I was going to share this story, I was going to share this experience, and that it was going to be for like women in the world who are ready to navigate, a lot of the things I navigated. And again, not even through infidelity, but like lessons in releasing self-righteousness, like choosing my own peace, forgiveness, surrender, trust, faith. So much of my journey. I mean, this is really, without that experience, I would not be the woman that I am today. And I knew that it was meant to be shared. Now, it took me 9 years to actually, I mean, it's 9 years ago, right today. So it took me 8 years because I started writing the book about a year ago. It took me 8 years to actually put the pen in my hand to write the book.
Right. I say to a lot of my clients, we have to become the woman capable of holding the wealth that's waiting. But I think in all aspects of life, when you have a big part of your mission, you have to get to that place in your specific path where you're capable of holding what you're about to put out there or what is waiting for you to release. And I think had you done the book earlier, maybe there could have been so much backlash, but the presence and the power of the book and in the reading of it, the way it's worded, the way you read it, everything about it comes from full ownership, no shame, no nothing to it is just one of the best books in so many ways. I could go on and on. I'm get like there's so many things that I don't want to say that I do want to say to not spoil parts, but I was mesmerized throughout the whole book about how there are so many angles you could have taken. And yet there
Yeah.
were moments of shame and you navigated those. There were great moments of pain. There are great moments of questioning yourself. There's so many aspects that I want to discuss, but I want people to hear this was 9 years ago. I could sit with this for a while and but I'll know when it's time. And then I've got to have the bravery to do it. I've known of you for a long time. I remember I met you in person years ago in Austin at that one Wild Alive event. And luckily, I've been able to experience a lot of the things that you do through your work with Melanie, but I had never known you like this book does. And that book made me love you in a way like I can't even explain. It is a gift. It is a gift focusing on infidelity, but so far beyond that. I mean, I really wish I could get this in the hands of any woman and man. I remember seeing a post right after it came out where someone was saying, I'm going to have to order a second copy because my husband won't put the book down. And I was like, it's so good for men too. It's so good for men too. Okay, so you thought about it. You finally decided, I'm going to write this book. You wrote it. Tell me what your soul is saying about it now. Is there anything you wish you would have done differently? Talk about where you're at with it.
So honestly, this book came out exactly the way that I wanted it to come out. There is nothing that I would do differently. And I think this is really important to highlight actually because of the journey that I've been on with it. And so I actually did start writing this book. The spiritual smackdown took place for me in 2016. In 2017, I did start writing the book. And it would have been a very different book then because it was very much let's tell the story versus now 8 years later as I was writing this, it's let's really share like the depth of the wisdom and
Mm.
how I wrote the book. I mean, to me, it really is this masterpiece of like zoom in and out of here's the story, here's the wisdom. And the elements of the story really supported the wisdom. And as I finished writing this book, there was a whole experience with a mentor of mine that there was a lot of promises, there's a lot of things that was going to happen with this book that didn't happen. And I talk about this in the book. This is the beginning that you mentioned. I actually in the beginning I put that as the afterword because the book was written and then I wrote this part. And then
Wow.
my publishers, I think we bring half of that to the beginning. I think we want to start that people know like how important it was for me to put this book out the way that I wrote it. And when I say the way I wrote it, I literally sat outside in nature, hand wrote the book, then transcribed it onto the computer. So even things like where a period went was important to me. I was like, some sentences are finished with like a dot, 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 because when I started writing the next day, I really wanted the book to feel like you were sitting next to me as I was writing this book, that it wasn't filtered, that it wasn't overly edited. I mean, the editor that I had, she's like, have this feeling you're going to take like 5% of the edits. And I was like, yeah, just mostly the ones that are like spelling because it's a book. Um, but it was really, really important to me. And then I was met multiple times with change this, change that, take this part of the story out. That's too shameful. It would be more powerful if you just shared the wisdom and you didn't share the story because the story might shine you at not might, will shine you in a different light for many people. If I wrote this book 8 years ago, it wouldn't be the book that I wrote today, number one. I also don't think I had then that level of personal power to handle the rejection, like to handle the rejection from a mentor in that way, to handle any backlash, which is wild. I haven't received any yet. I'm sure there's somewhere out there that's coming, but I haven't received one negative piece of feedback in 3 weeks, which has been quite extraordinary.
Yes.
But I don't think I was at a place where I would have stood for my truth like I did with this book.
Hmm.
And so I would have folded, I think, if this book was even 2 years ago out into the world, I would have folded when that mentor said, take out the story and let's add this, and then it's going to be a bestseller. I would have been like, okay, you know what's best. You're a bestseller. You're this. Let me put you, you're on this pedestal. Let me follow what you said. And so it was a real standing for my voice, standing for my truth, standing for the way that I wanted readers to hear this book, feel this book, read this book. I've had people tell me that they literally hold the book and can feel the transmission in it without even reading pieces. I wanted it to be a book where you just open up to the middle of the book. This actually one of my friends, her nanny, who's just been like so incredible to my daughter, I gifted her the book and I literally just opened in the middle of the book and started reading it. It was exactly what I needed to hear. I wanted these things. I wanted it to be a book that you go back to again and again. And so I had to stand in my truth with this. And then, I mean, the timing of the release. So you mentioned Melanie. So I work with Melanie and Layer within Alpha Femme, and we had this moment this summer where we were shifting our membership. We were on a phone call and we were both just, it's the movement. We are here to start movements with women. We are here to amplify women's voices. This is the frequency here, like movement, energy, like voices that are ready to be heard in this world. And then my book came out 2 months later. Like, this is my movement. And
Yes.
so now I'm leading an offering, a membership called The Movement, and I'm getting to show women really what it is to like leading your own movement, to honor your voice, to speak your truth in this way. And again, this book could have came out earlier. Like this was the time. This was the time where I was willing to stand in my power with it, to not have it edited out any way that I didn't want to have it, and to really stand for what I lead women in is being part of your own movement, being the piece, being willing to stand for whatever your movement is.
Yes, I really do want to highlight the point that you made. Had you done it and listened to that mentor and taken out any pieces, yes, it could have been a bestseller. And so many of us, when we're coming up with our creations, first we're navigating the vulnerability of making the creation. And then, of course, we want it to reach as many people as possible. You want it to be successful. There's that outside validation that most of us are looking for. However, like we had talked about, the whole point of creating this podcast, which I now think is so aligned with what you're doing in the book, is you want the right people to get the words from that book. And it will carry itself energetically to the right people because there's such purity in the message that you created. And I think that's an important thing for anyone who's listening, who is creating your own vision and your own dream. Do it from your soul, honor your soul. Yes, always. Mentorship is so great to help you to navigate the voids, navigate the fears, and then honor your, because your soul knows what that message is supposed to be and who it's supposed to be going to. And those divine connections, I'm so glad you didn't shift it. Before you even got into chapter one, there was you talking about the book, and I could feel it in my whole soul. And I thought, wow, I have never had that happen where I'm not even into it. And I could feel my body thinking, sit up and pay attention. There's something in you. And I don't have any pain, regret, judgment about any infidelity in my past. There's sections of this book that I want you to cover that I felt were like wildly powerful to me that had nothing to do with that. So it's based on infidelity, which started the series of you looking into yourself, but it's more about you rising into your goddess. Had you not
Yeah.
had that, you may not have. So it's so hard to not do any spoilers, but talk to the listeners or the viewers about if there was, pick one or two or three of the most important messages that you feel you really desire people to get through this.
I mean, well, this is going to be like probably the craziest part is that the number one thing that I want people to get is what we've been talking about already is taking a stand for your voice, your truth. And yes, there was the spiritual smackdown that I wrote the book about, but then the experience that I did have with this mentor before the book came out, like
Yeah.
there was like that brings in such a power to the book. Once that happened, I was like, I have to include it in the book because for me, the message in the book and through the spiritual smackdown was, can we be willing to be the voice of our own truth? Can we be willing to stand in the truth that we feel inside of us? And there was a lot of conflict for me during my spiritual smackdown, during this 8 month period where my human self really wanted to choose one thing and my soul kept speaking to me in a different, it felt like a different language. I was like, what the, like, no, I want this. But my soul kept saying and I kept receiving signs. And it was just like, nope, trust, like, trust, have faith, trust, have faith. And I was like, but that's not even what I want. Like, my human wants to choose this. And a big part of the book is really, I didn't want it also to feel like a book that was in any sort of way that was just like, choose love, choose peace, and bypass all the rest. When I say from victim to goddess, it was a journey and it was not a straight and narrow journey. It was a journey that I mean, there's chapters titled I Wanted Vengeance. There's chapters titled Manipulation Tactics, a chapter titled Self-Righteousness. Like there's many times where I thought I was like choosing peace, choosing love, like faith, trust, I've got this.
Yep.
And then the next day, something would happen, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I just like wham, the pain would, I allowed the pain to take over, and I would choose from places of like rage and anger in my human self, not my soul self. And I bring you on that journey with me in the book, so much to the point that when I was recording the audiobook at one point, I actually like slammed the book down and I was like, my publisher was there, the audio tech person doing the recording. I was like, guys, are we not sick of me yet? Really? Like I like again, I like falter here again. But this is the process of like growth and evolution in our journey. We don't get to that place where we're just like, and forevermore, you know? So we've got to be willing to it just felt like this whole experience was a strengthening. It was like, okay, you've got this, and let's see, are you going to waver here? Are you going to be continue to be willing to like stand in your truth even when this happens, even when it looks like, and even when everyone else is telling you, even when you feel shame, even when other people are, in this realm of judgment with you, can you stand in your truth?
Yes. I loved what you said. There's two things that I thought were really important. I think it's so vital for women to start navigating how you get your soul answers. My whole business is about your intuition. And what I loved about your book is that you're following your soul, but honoring your human. I mean, there's moments of judgment because you're behaving in a way that you wish that you wouldn't, but it's so natural. And then to not hold that against yourself, to love yourself for it, and then to come back to, like you just said, my soul is telling me things to be doing, and my human doesn't want to do it. And there was a part in your book where I was like, could I have honored my soul that time? And I don't know if I could have. I think my human would have won. But I think that's a very important thing for all of us to understand. The gift that you're offering in that is to continually go back to what is my soul saying now? And your soul can change the answers. what the answer could have been 3 months ago could be totally different than what the answer is now. But learning that deep trust in, and you explain this repeatedly so many times that you don't know the final outcome, you don't know where this is leading, but you just honor that over and over again. And we can apply that in any aspect of life. But you
Well,
did it.
I love what you just shared there about, and that soul, like that can change 3 months from now.
Yes.
So one thing for me was really being like, okay, I'm not just clenching to this outcome, or I'm not just clenching to this is the way it has to be, but it was, can I go inward? Can I go deep enough? Can I bring that soul truth forward in each moment?
Yes.
And I mean, from this experience, what was really birthed for me is I decided, and this is how I've moved in my life, in my business, in I mean, investments I make, buying houses, like whatever it is, has been, I'm not willing to deny my soul.
Yes.
And so even when my human wants to choose something else, even when it feels scary, even when it's unknown, even when it's highly uncomfortable, all of the things, can I choose my soul knowing because I'm not willing to deny my soul?
Yes. And that's what's made you, we're talking about your book, but that is what has made you such a powerful spiritual mentor. This woman has a connection to energetic understanding and soul guidance like no other mentor I've ever met. That is one of your biggest gifts. And I'm sure it was refined through this with the continually going back. And I think that's really important for listeners as well. We can take in so much information and think, okay, I've learned this, I've totally mastered this, I've got it. We never know until we're actually in the experience to see, have I applied and embodied the lessons I thought I learned? And there is no way to figure that out until you're tested, until somebody pisses you off, hurts you again, betrays you, something like that. And then it allows us to recognize, oh, I'm not where I thought I was, or I am where I thought I was, but I didn't know there was a bigger, more important level of growth ahead. And am I willing to step into that? And you do that over and over again. It is such a gift. And you teach people how to do it. You let people walk that path with you so beautifully that while you're listening or while you're reading, especially if you're reading, when that moment hits you in that book, take that second, set the book down, and analyze for yourself, okay, where is the experience that I need to take her lesson and contemplate, how could I be applying this right now, instead of the judgment where I didn't navigate that well, or I'm smack in the middle of it, or reflecting back, you know what, I could have done this differently. I was capable of doing it differently. I can do it differently now. I'm not going to judge myself for that, but this is a new invitation. It's so,
Oh my gosh. I'm like, I have so much I want to share right
yeah,
now, but I'm
share
like,
whatever
ah,
you
there's like,
feel called. Share
like
whatever you feel called.
just in what you shared there, gosh, there's so much that I'm like, where do I even go first? But just
Right.
in what you shared there, I think this wasn't even like language I had when I was going through my spiritual smackdown. It wasn't like, okay, she's been, so connected to self and so connected to God or spirit. Like throughout this, I use the word God a lot now, but in my spiritual smackdown, like during this time, I didn't. It was like universe, spirit. I had toe dipped in spirituality before. And now what people really know me for, it was through these moments that I really found myself, that I found the divinity within me, that I found the divinity within all of us, that I connected to the God within me. And then that's been such a part of this journey as well. Like going back to the writing of this book. So when I did write before, I'd sent the first chapter to a publisher who had already told me they were interested in publishing my book. And then was like, oh, you don't really write the way that you write a book. And I was like, but that's the way I write. And they're like, but it kind of like reads more. Like, I guess you haven't, I mean, you heard me do the audio book, but
Mm-hmm.
when you see the book, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yes, show it.
it's,
Mm.
well,
So
it's
good.
like some chapters are literally, I mean, this is a longer chapter, I'd say, and
Yeah.
it's a page and a half. I write in short sentences. I don't write paragraphs. I don't like, even when people were like, wait a second, this is 84 chapters. Like, what kind of book has 84 chapters? And it's not a thick
Mm.
book. It's 300 pages, but there's chapters that are 3 sentences
Yes.
long. It was really important for me, like I said before, to have you receive it in the way that I wrote it. And so again, coming up with, but this was the cool thing. It was like everything from in that spiritual smackdown, it was throughout the publishing journey was the same, throughout my writing journey was the same. Can I own? Can I own my way, my voice? It's not going to look the way that it does for other people. And one of the things that many people have said is that, like, I love the style. I love the way that you write. Well, I didn't even own this until literally less than a year ago. And I want to share that because I think we're told so often, do it this way and change this, literally change the style of the way that you write. It
Mm-mm.
wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be the same book. I do not think it would be having the impact it's having if I allowed those changes to be made.
Yes.
Then coming into you said you listened to the Audible book. I've never listened to an Audible book in my life. I have never listened to a book. And the week before I was about to record, I sent a message to my publisher and I was, I've never listened to a book. Do you think I should? She's like, well, maybe a good idea. And then I downloaded a book. She gave me a bunch to like
Mm-hmm.
suggestions. I looked and there wasn't, to be honest, there wasn't a lot that was hitting me. Then I was like, okay, this one. I listened to 30 seconds and I was like, nope. So to
Mm-mm.
this day, I haven't listened to an Audible book, but I think that was also such a cool experience in
Yes.
going into record because for me, I'm like, I don't know how this is supposed to sound. I don't know if I'm supposed to speak faster or slower or bring more emotion in or less emotion in. And so, again, because I didn't even know, I just let it be exactly what it felt like it was moving through me.
Yes.
And this is the thing, it's like you are your own way. And so, getting caught up in this noise and these details, and one publisher saying that they don't like the way that you write, and another mentor saying it's too shameful, and then somebody else, whatever it is. I mean, these are my experiences, but whatever your
Yeah.
experience is, they're not you.
Mm-mm.
They don't hold the wisdom that you hold. They don't have the stories that you have. They have their own wisdom. They have their own stories, and that's great. And multiple truths get to coexist. And I might not be the writer for this publisher, but I am the writer for many. And
Yes.
so I had to be willing to stand in that. If I would have shifted anything, honestly, it would have felt like a betrayal of self. And what I learned through my spiritual smackdown journey is like, I'm not willing to betray myself. I'm not willing to betray what I'm feeling called in my soul because my human's telling me something else or because I'm being told something else.
Yes. And had you done it any differently, had you betrayed yourself, had you cut anything out, you would have ended up with a different publisher. And I know the one you went with, and we adore her. And so the timing had to align in order for you to connect with her at
Yeah.
Sabrina. And if you guys don't know, her publisher is, we're allowed to say that, right? Sabrina
Yeah,
is,
absolutely. Femme Power Publishing,
yes.
Sabrina Greer. Hmm.
She, so we've had her on the podcast, and what I love is she is so soulfully led as well. So the divine timing of you honoring every element of your story then aligns you with a publisher who lives that same type of divine honoring in how she chooses books. I think that's another important message. What is your mission and your movement and the thing that is on your heart to deliver? And if it feels like it's not getting out yet, can you trust that you're being aligned with the right connection, the right opportunity, the right voice to carry your message forward? Because sometimes it does feel like it's taking too long. Sometimes we have listened to the wrong voices and let ourselves down a different path, or sometimes the lesson that needs to be included hasn't been lived by you yet. And I look back on a lot of my experiences, and maybe I had 8 out of the 10 pieces, but I still needed to come across number 9. And when I hit
Yeah.
number 9, then it helped me to embody more of it for me to honor it. And I'm so glad I listened to the Audible and then had this conversation, because with that Audible, I did notice the shorter chapters, but I loved that because when you do the shorter ones, there's that impact. Like this message was so short and so intentional. Take that moment and contemplate it. I mean, I love the longer ones too because I'm following along with the story and I'm wondering what you're going to say and I'm wondering what you're going to do. And then I'm feeling my own emotions, getting very protective of you and things I would want to say and things I would want to do. So I'm writing that, but there was also these very impactful, very strong moments where there's enough of a pause that if it was a book, I am inviting you, don't just try and engulf it. Like read the story, but take the moments. The one, there's 20, but one really, really strong thing I feel in my soul is this book has messages that are between the words. This book has messages for you that have nothing to do with the actual storyline. This book has messages that are going to carry energetically for whatever you're going through right now that does not follow Jaclyn's exact story, but the lessons behind it, the intentionality, the woman you're becoming, the man you're becoming, it needs to intersect with this right now to help you to take that little message, go back and contemplate where is it applying to me? How can I grow from this? And then what am I going to see differently? I loved the way you did it. I'm so glad you didn't change those short chapters.
Thank you. And this is one of the things I wanted those short chapters to be easy to go back to have that integration. Like for me, this isn't a book that I just want you to consume and read fast. And the amount of people that have shared with me, like I've read it in 1 day or 2 days or listened, like I just couldn't put it down. I mean, so incredible, and I'm so grateful for it. And don't let that be it.
Yep.
Now let's go back, read. And I mean, many people have told me like they're on their second, their third read, and
Yes.
so that's happening. But it isn't just read it and read it quickly. Like it is, you do pick it up and not want to put it down, but then take that time to integrate the wisdom, take that time to contemplate, take that time to go back to sit with and say like, oh yeah, where do I do this in my own life? Where do I choose from the seat of the victim versus like actually shifting here and looking from my truth, that soul level knowing, where am I attached to outcomes? Where am I sitting in judgment? Where am I holding on? Where am I not willing to forgive? All of these things, there's so many different experiences I will say
Yeah.
within this book, and my desire is that you really do sit with it, or that you do go back to it, that it's something. When I first sent it to, when I was like pitching publishers, like part of my thing, I was like, it feels like it's a book, and my desire for this to be a book is like that it doesn't stay pretty and clean and nice like this, that it's like the corners are folded over, that there is highlighters and pens, like that it's marked up because you want to go back and like just open a page and be, oh yeah, like this is the message for me today.
Yes. And there are so many messages in this. I loved that you pointed out I wasn't using the word God all the time. I wasn't this highly spiritual person that knows how to evolve pain. The pain drove you inwards, and then you chose repeatedly over and over again, how am I going to navigate this? What am I going to choose now? What am I going to say? How am I going to behave? What are the words I'm going to use? I'm going to take some time, but I'm also going to forgive myself when I impulsively act and when I do things. There are so many parts of it that are so relatable. It is such a human path because you navigate all the emotions. So I see why we eat it up so quickly. And then because you want to follow the storyline, you want to know the outcome, you want to know what happens. And then there's parts where you're just like, okay, wait, sit and breathe. But there's the element, yes, of infidelity. There's a much bigger, I would say, the full undertone of the book is your own path to self discovery and the path of really finding how you navigate in each moment, which can be applied to everything that every human does. It doesn't have to be building a business, repairing a relationship, becoming spiritually connected. It's just continually going back to me. There was
Yeah.
one thing I wanted to ask you about that I thought was interesting, and I'm so glad you brought it up because I forgot. I noticed at some points in the book, you say God is a she, and other points in the book, you say God is a he. And I remember, oh, I have to ask her about that. So tell me your experience of that.
So throughout most of the book,
Yeah.
I'd say God is a he because that's just what like I feel in my own life. That's the energy for me. And I use he mostly. But my sister actually, because she read it quite a while ago, one of my sisters, and she was like, I think you made like a mistake here the first time she saw that chapter because she was like, wait, you said she, but then you said he. And that really reflects to me in that journey. So at that time, the word that I was using a lot was spirit, and spirit felt she to me.
Mm,
And so I really brought in the she and the he and the I want to say I'm not really even intentionally, to be honest, because I sat outside and wrote, and if I wrote she, it stayed a she, and if I wrote he, it stayed a he. And when I was taking myself back to those moments where I felt like the angelic presence and I was talking to spirit, it felt like she, so I would write she. And then when I was writing more from like my energy now, I would say I would tend to write he. And again, I didn't want to edit that and shift
No,
that
no.
because whatever your experience is, somebody even asked recently in the Alpha Femme community was like, I want to read this book. I keep hearing all about it. And I know that she uses the word God a lot, and I don't use the word God, and people are still like, read it, like, still
Mhm.
read it. And so again, not that I was like trying to make it accessible to everyone. Like I will own that I like speak about God. I have clients. I have this one woman who I've worked with on and off for years, and she's like, I don't believe in God, and she still keeps hiring me. We still keep working together, and I still keep talking about God with her. Again, not pushing my beliefs on her, but I'm just like, this is what it feels like to me.
Yeah.
And it's like just really in that I don't care if in the sense of I don't care if God for you is a he or a she or an angel or spirit, or if you hate the word God or like whatever it is, it's about again connecting to self,
Yes.
like
Yes.
finding that remembrance in self. And this kind of connects to something I was giggling when you were talking earlier about how I didn't have this whole spiritual background, let's say.
Hmm.
I mean, at the beginning of the book, I share this, but this is kind of a fun part, so I'll
Yeah.
share it
Yes.
here. 2 days into what I call my spiritual smackdown, I had this reading with a woman who is a medium and just channeled wisdom. She's like incredible. She's still in my life today. Like she is amazing. But on our first call, all of these like women in my life had been like seeing her for years. Like you have to have a session with her. You have to have a session with her. And in the beginning, she was like, I see you speaking on stages and speaking, and I mean, I'm saying it like this, like she was actually in her like very powerful. She's like, and I see you on the stage and I see you with your voice and Jesus is here and God is here and like you're speaking about love and you're speaking about this. And I honestly was like, I don't give a flying F what Jesus, God, again, I would never use those words at that point in my life. I'm like, I do not care what they want. I am not going to speak on stages. I am not talking about love. This has nothing to do with what I do in the
Yeah.
world. What are you talking about? Just tell me how this story is going to end. And
Yes.
I left that call after an hour pissed. I was mad that there was this talk about you're going to lead and you're going to have these conversations with people and you're going to be on stages. And I'm like, yeah, 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 yeah. Who cares? Not happening. Let's get to, I am in like the worst moment of my life and that's what you want to talk to me about? I was like, no, give me the answer I'm looking for. And so, no, definitely didn't have this whole like, well, I mean, we all always have it, but I didn't have the awareness of who I am, who we all are as divine beings.
Yeah, I love that. You were in the process of discovering, and you honored that because it was who you were at the time. I love that story about her because she's trying to share the messages with you that are important for you. And the universe and God don't work on our human time. So we're like, I'm talking about the issue right now. And they're like, but you have these magical, amazing things ahead. And we're like, who gives a shit? I don't care. I need this solved. And yet here we are, and you're speaking on stages, and
Well,
your
I was
voice
gonna say,
is carrying love,
and
right?
it's funny because the only thing I want to do right now is write more books, speak on stages, lead places like
Right.
the movement, which
Yeah.
is a stage, which is a
Yes.
stage where I'm leading women and amplifying voices. So even right now, I feel like God's, yeah, see, like,
See, I
had
said
you
it.
back
I
then,
told you
had
when
you
you didn't
back
want to
then,
hear
I
it.
told you so.
You
But
didn't
I
want to
was
hear
like
it, but
in this
I had
trajectory.
something to say. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was caught up in that, like the idea of, I mean, we're talking 2 days in, and now I say being in the unknown is where I live. Like I feel so alive in the unknown, but then
Hmm.
feeling unknown about what the next day was gonna bring, and I was pregnant with my daughter. I was 3 months pregnant. My son was almost two. I had miscarriages before her health was, there was health complications throughout my pregnancy. Like I didn't, my marriage is falling apart. Like I didn't want to be left in the unknown in
Right.
that moment, but it was in the unknown that
Yeah.
I truly did find myself.
So let's venture into that right now. I felt like that was really important for people that are listening right now. What is coming from the woman with all this wisdom and all the experiences that you've had, so many of us, you're in the unknown all the time. And it's scary. We try and avoid it. We try to go back to what we know. We try and seek out people with the answers, and none of that is wrong. But when there really isn't an answer at the exact time you want it, talk about how to sit with the unknown. How do you do it? What do you recommend? What is your soul saying to share? Because I do feel like this is an important part. I feel like I should slow down and really let you say something here.
Well, I think that's it right there.
Mm.
Can I slow down?
Yeah.
Can I take some deep breaths? Can I sit in stillness? Can I not just try to figure it out or move into the next thing? Can I be with myself? Like I honestly didn't used to until this experience, like didn't like to be with myself. I didn't sit with myself. I didn't have this relationship with myself. I didn't have this relationship with God because I got very caught up in the chasing and the doing and the needing and the having and the producing, and I've got to make it happen. And when we allow ourselves to be in these moments of unknown, this for me is where you really start to understand your capacity, where you start to see, sitting in sacred witness of self, you start to see where you put limitations in your energy field. Not God, not the person sitting beside you, not the villain in your story. You create the limitations in your energy field. And so when you are willing to sit in these moments in between and not things to speed up, not needing to force things, well, this is like puts you into an allowance frequency
Mm.
where you allow the unfolding,
Yes.
where you allow things to shift, where we shift, everything occurs in frequency first.
Yeah.
And so sitting in witness, coming back into self, hearing soul wisdom, soul truth above all else. Otherwise, we get caught up. We get so caught up in this human experience. And again, not that it's like, oh, so forget the human. I am here for the full human experience and the full soul journey.
Mm.
So I don't need to reject the human parts of me. I don't need to shame the human parts of me. I don't need to be in avoidance of an experience like pain because I am here for all of it. I am here for all of it because through those moments, I mean, through this pain, through this experience, I became the woman that I am today. And there's been some really beautiful messages I've received from people about my husband. And um, he had this moment when we were driving recently-ish, what was after the whole don't put the book out and it's shameful and all of these things.
Mhm.
And I mean, and he just shared with me and he was like, where do you think we'd be at without that experience in our life? And I'm like, not in a good place.
Yeah.
I know the day that I finished writing the book, we went and celebrated, and I actually cheers the glass of champagne to him. This is in the dedication at the beginning of my book, like that I said, thank you for giving me the story to write. Is this an experience in my life that I wish never happened? Of course. Who wants to wish that there was infidelity in their marriage? No one.
Yeah.
But am I grateful for the experience and what I chose within that experience and the woman that I became through that experience and the marriage I now have on the other side of that experience? Like, absolutely.
Part of my nervousness for reading the book was about I was worried about your husband. But I work with a lot of men. My whole life has been around men, and I see men from a different perspective. And so I was like, one, I want to really honor that you guys have that kind of a relationship where he could stand in the this is going to be exposed and these were all my choices and everyone's going to know. People want to hide that. And this is a man who was like, tell your story. I was thinking that on the drive. Could I live with someone exposing experiences that I had created that had harmed them? Could I handle that? I just had so much appreciation and admiration for your husband for being, yes, share the story. Tell, because you tell the truth. You tell so many details that I think I would have been afraid to share or to have out there, but it makes it so real and relatable. And I think it's important for people to recognize in every relationship, whether it's sibling, partners, families, especially love relationships, we are two separate souls on two journeys and we happen to connect on this. And so there are lessons my soul needs to learn while I'm with you. And some of those lessons I need to learn might harm you. But my soul needs to learn them. And so can we as humans always honor that for our partner, that we, even though we're together 10 years, 40 years, 60 years, we're still two separate souls with purposes and those life lessons. And you talk about this, and I was like, yes, it's so important. I remember having a very specific download in my life when I'd gone through a breakup, and I heard so clear as day that the lessons that he needs to learn, he can only learn them with her, because you won't betray him the way that she will. And it
Mm.
hurt me to know he's going to be betrayed, but I couldn't have done that with him. And then years later, there was another download that was, it's not your business the path that he needs to take or the pace at which he walks that path. Not meaning to harm me, but there are the lessons he has to learn. And so I can either walk that with him in this one relationship and trust that pace may take longer than I want, but I love him and I can handle it and I can navigate it. Or if I can't, I can exit, but those are his lessons he needs to learn, just like mine. And yes, we want to treat each other with grace while we do that, but I feel like sometimes it's not fair, or we don't contemplate that if we want someone to choose differently because it's hurting us, or you shouldn't have done that, or you're betraying me and you promised this, we don't know what's ahead. We really don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I'm sure he wouldn't have intentionally hurt you, but the gifts that came from him honoring some of his soul lessons that were harming you, and you having such resilience and trust and such a big heart and willing to walk that path, you both got those soul lessons. And I deeply admire that you came back together. I
Yeah.
really, yeah,
What you just said there and that experience that you had in this relationship, I mean, that zooms me into the Napa Valley chapter. And that's the chapter that I think once a lot of people get to that point, they're like, now they're starting to feel angry at me. They're just like, come on, girl. But that's what I felt then. I was like, nope, like you've got to step out of the control of this here. You've got to trust that there's like something in this for him, for his soul journey right now. And that was, I mean, that was one of the hardest
yeah.
emails I've ever sent in my life. That was one of the hardest conversations. That was floods of tears. And also just felt like I was honoring what I knew was truth for me, even though it was like the last thing I wanted to choose in that moment.
Well, we can give people so much grace and so much compassion if we do understand. I want to honor their journey and I want to honor my journey.
Well,
So,
that right there is the thing. It was honoring his journey, but as much as honoring mine at the same time, I was like,
yeah,
I'm feeling this inside. And so
yeah,
again, I'm not willing to deny my soul. So it wasn't, I mean, there was so much that, yes, and honoring his journey, but it was truthfully more about honoring my own. It was like, this is what you feel inside, and don't deny that because you're human. Again, is feeling like a victim because you want vengeance, because you want to punish, because you're in judgment, because you're whatever. And I was like these were the moments where I was like, can I choose? This was like where my faith was absolutely cultivated. And can I stand in that conviction even when it makes absolutely no sense to not just doesn't make sense to anyone else, but like it didn't even make sense to me at the time at
yeah.
the mind level, but it made so much sense right here. It made so much sense when I tuned into my soul.
How do you differentiate between the I'm hanging on because I love him, like so many of us do when we're young, and I'm saying there's a chance and this is worthwhile, even when he doesn't show me he loves me, right? There is that, which I know so many of us have done. Some people are going to be triggered by that and they're going to be like, well, wait, how would you differentiate that for people that have not had the soul clarity, or they've stuck it out for a relationship when this was not the same thing? Talk a little bit about that, because I think that's going to be helpful. And I think that's going to be one
Yeah,
of the things
I do
people need.
too. I mean, the truth is, I do feel like we always know. We know. Deep inside, we know. I've been in a different relationship where there was also infidelity. And I will tell you, I did that. I was like, and I'm hanging on and I'm going to change him and it's going to be all of these things. But from the place of control,
Mm.
I don't want to be embarrassed by this because I was like, I don't want this to get out. Let me put this Band-Aid solution on it because I was like, to be honest, I was like, because I want to win. If this relationship ends, I want it to be of my choosing. And I actually sat with this for a moment within the spiritual smackdown and asked myself, like, do you just want to win here? And I was like, no, I wanted to be done. I wanted to walk away. I wanted to. There's so many times that I asked God. I mean, at the time, like I said, I think I said universe, spirit, whereas please tell me, is now the time I get to throw in the towel? And I kept again, it just was like, no,
Yeah.
no, no. And so it was again, it was more like trusting in that soul knowing. But and again, how do we know the difference? One's you're talking to yourself from your head.
Yes.
And when you're talking to yourself from your head, that's again your human control, your human like thinking that she needs something, the manipulation, the wanting to win, the fear of whatever it is, fear of being alone, fear of being judged. What it's like that's all things that only exist at the human realm. So
Right.
like fear exists at the human realm, not truth in your soul.
Yep.
Control exists in the human realm, not at the level of the soul. And so really looking, what is this here? And but at the end, I'm going to say, if you sit with yourself, you
Right.
know if this truth is coming from within you. And usually when the truth comes from within, I'm going to say it's not what your human wants to choose.
Right. Right. And there is a difference. Just keep going backwards in your mind. You all know there's been a time where your intuition said don't, and you did. And then there's times where your intuition says do, and you're like, no, not now, not yet. I didn't hear that. There is a difference. And it's exactly what she says. It is not words and it's not thought. It is a knowing. It is a knowing in your soul. And sometimes it is a one word drop with no feelings. Other times it's a very powerful one, but you do know it. There's been numerous examples. I would really strongly invite anyone who's listening. I really hope that's one of the main messages is if you don't feel strongly connected to your intuition, please start working on that first because that navigates everything. It navigates what the decisions you're going to make today. And I think an important part of Jaclyn's story is had she not, there was something in her that knew in this process, as she says, that it's for us. She didn't even know us yet. And there are things that are happening in your life now or that have happened in your life that really will serve people because we all experience similar pains. We all want to know there's someone out there that made it through and they can be my example. I'm capable of handling it. I may not believe in myself right now, but me navigating this proves how strong I am, how capable I am. And is there a lesson in this that somewhere down the road, someone else will need me as the evidence, me as the example, whether I navigated it gracefully or not, I made it through. And I want people to give themselves credit. We've made it through everything to this point, good, bad, ugly, beautifully handled, some with regrets, said lovely or not. I do feel like most of the big experiences in my life, the ones that caused me pain, I was the person capable of handling that experience so that someday I could help someone else. And if it's all rosy, we don't find that capacity of who we are. You have to go through the hard things. And then when you get through that, you're like, I am a badass. And now I can help somebody else. Doesn't mean it was great, but this book wouldn't exist. You wouldn't be the phenomenal spiritual leader that you are without all of that.
Yeah, and I think absolutely to everything that you just said. And I think within, like you said, within these moments of pain and these hard things that we navigate as humans, the mission is to not betray ourselves, to
Yeah.
not deny our soul. Because, like you said there, a lot of people feel like they're disconnected from their intuition. Well, just because you've been betraying yourself. And
Yeah.
so the only way back is to stop betraying yourself, to be willing to follow those pings, those soul nudges you get when you see that red flag, like to listen. And so it's got to be built from I'm willing, and I'm not willing to deny my soul anymore. I'm not willing to betray myself.
And your intuition, God, spirit, the universe, it doesn't punish you for not listening. Whether it's been one time or 50 years, it doesn't punish. It's sitting waiting. It's waiting to answer
Yes.
you every single day. The answers are always there. They're just waiting for you to listen. And all you have to do is create the space for the opening. And I think that that's the important thing too, is if you are in the middle of something that's really challenging, if you are navigating heartbreak, if you're trying to build something that's not working out, if you just don't even know what the next step is, refocusing, and she talks a lot about this, on the gratitude of everything that is going right. If you can just take that tiny shift into what's going right, getting your mind off of what's going wrong or the pain, then allows that gap for the intuition to speak, to just give you a tiny bit of guidance. And it's not going to give you 20 steps down the road. It's going to lead you one at a time. It's just waiting to answer you. Here, take this, do that, act this. And it, like she has said countless times, it may not be always what you want to hear, but if you, it's not just hearing the intuition, it's taking that intuitive action. Hear the intuition, act. Hear the intuition, act. If you fall down, redirect. If you do something that you aren't proud of, redirect. It's always there. One thing I loved, and I had forgot to bring this up, that I thought was so important, is when you talk about forgiveness versus acceptance. Coming from unconditional love, when you have acceptance, there is no need for forgiveness. That is one of my favorite parts of the book. You all have to get to that. It blew my mind. I thought about that for hours. I talked about that this weekend. Share what you can about that. It's a big principle that can't fit into 2 minutes, but it is brilliant.
Honestly, this is one of the biggest pieces for me. And I remember feeling this, well, all those years ago, 9 years ago. And then I remember the first time I literally remember where I was sitting the first time I had this conversation with someone on the other side and was like, am I really gonna speak this out loud? But it is what I absolutely feel. And it's interesting because it almost feels contradictory in some ways. I believe like forgiveness of self is such important work that we dive into because we have these moments where we have betrayed ourselves, where we've denied our soul, where we haven't listened to our intuition. And so the forgiveness work that I lead people in is actually about releasing the judgment that we have of self.
Yes.
And so while we're sitting in judgment of self or others, forgiveness is required because we're looking through the lens of right and wrong, and you harmed me. And so then I need to forgive. And then I feel like people say sorry all the time, and it's surface level because I'm sorry. Oh, I forgive you. But I'll forgive, but don't forget. This is the energy we bring around forgiveness because there's still that, and you harmed me, and you did something wrong, and I'm the victim, and I'm fill in the blank there. And so when we stop looking through our human eyes, which are judgmental, and start looking through the eyes of love and the eyes of God and the eyes of the divine, when we stop judging, you'll start to find, oh, wait, forgiveness just it feels like it evaporates. It's like there's nothing to forgive because I'm not labeling things as good, bad, right, wrong.
Yes. My brain kept going back to that. And then I was thinking about it the next day, and I realized if I truly do understand what I was saying about we're all souls on our own journeys, and then we intersect, whether it's for, we meet on a podcast or we spend 40 years together, we're walking that part together. So if I can understand that anyone who I think has hurt me, their intent was not to harm me. Their intent was to get their needs met. The outcome of them getting their needs met harmed me. I can choose
Mm.
how long I carry that, but that outcome caused me some pain, but their intent was not to harm. So, can I look at they're trying to walk their soul's path at their pace and learn the lessons that are vital for them? Can I handle that it wasn't the way I would have wanted it done? But if I can do that, then I don't need to judge them because I want to honor walking my soul's path at its pace. My intent is not to harm. We think sometimes they're intending to harm us, but in those moments, remember, they're trying to get their needs met. And I'm upset because I wanted them to meet my needs. And yet in my life, I'm trying to get my needs met. I'm trying to navigate my needs. And I loved that when you're really looking at yourself with acceptance, you're just navigating this life with all the important lessons and the things that are coming to you. There shouldn't be judgment on yourself. And can we be that type of person where if I'm not judging them, there is no need to forgive? And I remember my mom had said to me once, she'd heard this church talk. There's only two people in this life that I had a lot of against. And yet neither one of them had ever harmed me. They had harmed people I love. And so my protective energy was, I don't want to forgive them for this. And in that talk, someone had said, if the person had not harmed you, there was never anything to forgive. What's happening is I'm sitting in judgment of
Yeah.
them, that
Yeah.
it wasn't even me. And it blew my mind. I realized I have nothing to forgive them for because they never harmed me. I'm judging them for their behaviors. And that heavy word really opened my eyes. So when you talked about that, and you guys will understand it more as you listen to the book or read the book, there is such a beautiful shift. So if you have people you haven't been able to forgive, this is a such a brilliant way, such a loving way to really see it differently.
Yeah, that reminds me, I had a friend right after who said to me, she's like, well, you can't just expect all of us to forgive him because you have forgiven him. And I remember saying to her, like, I don't need you to forgive him. And I also offered to her, if you try to stop judging him, let's see what happens.
I've done that with my friends too. I had friends that stayed in relationships when they were betrayed, and I could not forgive that guy because I saw it hurt my friend. That's not my place. It's not my place. I'm judging him.
Hmm.
He harmed her. She chose to stay. I love her. So I can sit, it doesn't mean I have to associate with him. It doesn't mean I have to be his best friend, but I'm really learning how quickly we are to judge. And when we tie it with this pain of who harmed who, and it feels good because I'm like, I love her. I'm protecting her. You harmed him. And I love him. And it comes from love and protection. And yet that's not my place.
And it just takes us out of truth, right? It takes us out
Yes.
of truth when we're here for and taking a stand for love and for truth. Well, as long as we're looking through the eyes of judgment, we're not connected to our truth. We're not connected to the frequency of love.
Yes, and so much that third section of your book, third getting towards the end, the fourth, so much about unconditional love. And the journey of your book is so relatable in so many aspects. You take us full circle, and then you end that book sitting in the feelings of unconditional love. I've just been thinking about that over the last week. How do I think about unconditional love? How do I share? How do I feel? How do I live in it? Do people feel unconditional love around me? I mean, that's why there's just so many great components of this book.
Well, I mean, I think similar, like forgiveness, I think that can be surface level. I think we throw like unconditional love, I think gets thrown around a lot, but it's like, well, actually, this is conditional and this is conditional and this is conditional and not, I truly think not many humans, unfortunately, have really received unconditional love and therefore don't know how to give unconditional love. But I do feel like this is what we're here for and this is what's shifting to like
Yeah.
actually live in a place where we choose to unconditionally love, where we're able to receive unconditional love.
And you know what? We wouldn't be able to even learn how to experience that if we weren't quote unquote hurt along the way. Because if nobody's hurting us, what it's not a challenge to love, right? We just love everyone. Everything's great. So some of the hardest experiences in our lives are the ones that are going to open you to how big is my capacity to love, and where have I been cutting it off? Where have I not? And especially with ourselves, like you were saying. I could talk to
Yeah,
you about this forever. There's so
I
many
know.
things. But for anyone who is listening to this and is feeling, okay, I definitely need some expansion and growth, and there's some things I know I need more help with, talk about how people can find you and work with you. She's the one to go to for all of this. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, finding me is pretty easy. Instagram is my place, Jaclyn_Shaw underscore, which I'm sure we can add to the show notes here. And then spaces, I lead in some very powerful mentorship spaces, a mastermind that's connected to this book. It's called the Memoir Mastermind, which is not about writing memoirs. It's the spiritual Smackdown Mastermind, where we bring forward these spiritual concepts and dive deep. That's a 4 month experience with me. The movement, which is an Alpha Femme collaboration with Melanie and Layer. This is where I really help and guide women in amplifying their mission, their movement, their voices. So those are two incredible places. And then one of my core course that really goes into transcending illusions of the human realm. So what we're talking about here, like lack, need, control, requirement, attachment to outcomes. That offering I have is called the Ascension Pathway, and it's like the basis of my work.
She is brilliant. Of course, we will have every link. We will put how to buy the book. So definitely find her, Jaclyn Shaw, on all of the socials, but especially Instagram. Is there anything else that you feel like is an important message? If there's one, another message for the one who's listening, is there anything you feel like is important?
Honestly, it goes off what you just said here at the end, because that's
Mhm.
exactly what I felt in my experience. You said our capacity to love. And this for me is what I always say. I didn't know the depth of love that I could give, that I could receive, that I could experience until this experience. But it did start, it truly started off with, can I love myself? Can I love myself unconditionally? Can I forgive myself? Can I stop judging myself? And then when I was able to do, that's when I found the conviction in my voice. That's when it was easier to have faith because I knew at the end of the day, not just that God's got me, but also like I've got me.
Yeah. I'm glad we're ending with that because the saddest thing that we could do is not learn to how to completely love ourselves. It's so sad that that's not a theme we're being taught our whole lives. Learn how to love yourself no matter what. Why? Why do we judge ourselves? Why do we carry shame? Where did that become a principle? That's something that we do. We're just these beautiful souls trying to live and learn. What I could see you
I'm
getting
like,
excited.
I'm like having this full circle moment from
Yeah.
that event that you and I read in Austin together. So this was the first time I spoke on stage. And after I was in a mentorship space with Melanie. So this is before I came in to collaborate with her and work with her. And she was like, tell me like your favorite moment of the event. And I said, we were in this panel and we got asked, what are you the most proud of? And my response was me. And I shared this with Melanie. She's like, did you really say that on the stage? And I was like, yeah. And I ended up recording like a video, a reel from it. But in this energy, I'm most proud of me, of who I now am as a woman who is just so unapologetically in love with herself, who just exudes love into the world. And it was really, we're coming back to the full circle moment of that channel too, who told me I'm going to speak about love. But when you and I met, that was also the message there. And it was about falling in love with myself and being so unapologetic, like that I am my favorite person.
You know what's funny? And I could be wrong here. I might have asked that question. I
Oh my
remember
gosh, I
that
have
moment.
goosebumps. If you asked that question, like I feel like you might have actually, as you just said
I
that.
might have, because, and I had kept clips of that and put them on my Facebook way back when. I remember sharing a clip about you. I remember that clip stuck out to me so much. I'll see if I can find it.
I
I totally forgot about that until you said that. And I remember loving that answer because it came with power. That panel was the whole thing that stuck out to me from that event. But your answer came with such certainty. And that was
Yeah.
how many years ago, right? And here you are.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. The best.
That
Thank you.
so good.
Thank you. Thank you for this entire conversation. Thank you for being the conduit for this. Thank you for your desire to spread this book and my message to the world. It means
My
the world.
favorite thing to ask at the end is considering the woman that you are today and feeling into what's ahead for your future, how do you answer the sentence, I am the one who?
I am the one who's here to guide others back into the truth of who they are.
Absolutely. I have no doubt. I feel so strongly that this is just one more avenue to get your voice to the world. But what I love about it is it's taking your voice to the world in a way that once someone reads that, they cannot not fall in love with you. Writing that book was such a gift to me because I remember when you very first signed up with Melanie, you and your partner way back in the day. I remember hearing your story and how brave that was. I remember seeing you shift into, I'm doing this on my own. I'm growing a whole new brand. I've watched your path, and I'd remembered hearing that there was infidelity and that you had stayed, but I never knew the whole story. And that book, like, I could not love you more. And I'm so grateful that you were willing to share that. There are women that aren't online. They're going to come across your book. They're going to find it on Audible one day. And you're going to touch people that don't even know your name right now. There are countless ways to heal in that book. There are countless messages that will elevate anyone's life who comes across it. I hope everyone who hears this gets that book. Thank
Oh
you for
my
having the
gosh.
bravery.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And I'm going to give a little spoiler alert here. If you have the physical book, right here at the end, there's this little QR code, which an Audible, it's hard to find because it's in the
Yeah.
show notes. But if you buy the Audible, send me a message. If you can't access this, it takes you to a free active. Like when I said I want this to go beyond just this book, it takes you to a free activation about activating your personal power. From there, it takes you to an offering where you get 11 activations with me for $44. From there, there's an opportunity to come into one of my courses that's typically $3,333 for $444. There are ways connected to this book and magic of coming in. There's the movement, which is $222 a month. There's things, there's podcasts, there's free spaces, there's so much. So connect with me because there's lots. Because again, my desire is not just to have this book be something you consume, but something that you live, that you breathe, that you embody, that you like drop into this wisdom for yourself.
Go get the physical book so you can reread it, so you can highlight the parts that you love. Go through there, consume it, but take it, contemplate it, read her words, take it into your life. Get in. I have been someone who has been a recipient of her activations. Her activations are so powerful. Use that QR code, get in there, experience that, find your $44, get in with her. The movement is fantastic. It's 222 and it's not a long-term commitment. Plus you're in a group of women doing this with you and she leads that. And Melanie is, if you know me, you know Melanie. I love her. This has been an honor for me. Thank you for coming on the podcast. Thank you for
Thank you
writing
so
that
much.
book. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
husband, too. Thank you to both of you for being willing to share such a vulnerable insight and peek into your life, but all the valuable lessons. We're so
Mhm.
grateful.
Thank
I
you.
love it. Thank you. We'll see you again soon on the One Podcast. We love you guys.